So here today we have some of the absolute best linear and tactile switches that I have used to date. These are probably going to be some of my favorite switches of this year. It's from a new switch brand called Emogogo, and they partner with Prevail Key Company to make these brand new JWK manufactured switches. They use custom molds, and they also feature some of the best factory lubing that I have yet to find on a keyboard switch. They also did help develop the Prevail Epsilon switches as well as the Nebula switches, which both are incredible keyboard switches. The Epsilons are some of my favorite linears as well, and they are lubed equally as well as the Epsilon switches. Like, I kid you not, I pulled these Emogogo switches apart and there was literally a ton of factory lube on the stems of both the linear and the tactile versions. Now, talking about the composition of the switches, they use a nylon housing as well as a palm stem featuring a long pole on both the linear and the tactile version. Looking at the lack of wobbliness from the stems on both the linear and tactile, it's basically pointless to want to film the switches. Like, seriously, there's no need to. You literally be wasting your time for like barely an impact on the sound profile of the switches purely by putting in a film. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm incredibly over hand lubing switches. Like, I have so many switches to lube and I just don't feel like it. Like, it's a lot of work. Gateron has honestly been very good at starting their new lube processes for like the Gateron Oil King switches, which I thought were really good as well. But these Emogogo switches, honestly, I feel like they're just a little bit better in terms of the factory lube job than on the Gateron Oil Kings, where I really noticed how good of a job that Gateron was able to do. And if you don't really want to worry about factory lubing switches at all, and you want something that sounds like fairly clacky, but potentially deep, depending on what keyboard you have and what composition of the plate and things like that, these are probably going to be something that you guys are wanting to take a look at. If I'm looking for a little bit more of a extremely smooth and clacky switch, I'm probably a lot more tempted to recommend the Emogogo switches. If we're looking for something that's going to be a little bit more thocky, then I am going to be leaning a little bit more toward the Prevail Epsilon switches. Of course, the linear switch performance is incredibly smooth, and both the linear and tactile switches use this progressive spring that feels incredibly snappy and honestly makes these switches really, really good for gaming because the return feel is just so snappy. I absolutely love gaming with these switches, and I've been using them for a little bit over a few weeks. The tactile switches, on the other hand, feature tactility that is pretty similar to Boba U4Ts, and I will have some sound comparison between the Boba switches as well as the Emogogo switches, but they do sound really good. I'm really impressed with the feel of the switches as well as the sound profile of the switches in their stock format. Like, I'm not too sure if I would even bother hand lubing these switches. Obviously, if you hand lube them with some Crytox 205 grade 0, it is going to make them a little bit deeper in pitch, but as far as smoothness, I don't really think that it's worth it to lube these any further. And if you really enjoy tactility, I'm telling you, these Emogogo Tactiles are some of my new favorite switches. I actually prefer to use the Tactiles over the linears, even though I put the Tactiles in a board that's not necessarily my favorite. They don't sound the best in the Autobao ID80 V2, but they do indeed feel really good. And if you put them in a little bit more higher end board, or maybe just a different board that has a different sound profile like a KBD 67 Lite, you probably will love the Tactiles equally as much as I do. But thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoy, feel free to drop a like and subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you guys for watching Too Much Tech, and don't forget to use code Too Much Tech at checkout to save a little bit if you decide to buy some switches, some accessories, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys in the next video, and enjoy some sound tests and comparisons.